I had a hobby too. Mine happened to be guns and ballistics, and I studied guns and ballistics as much as I could, and I wrote an article about high velocity.
So out of all my years working at Weatherby, the last 5 have been some of the most exciting. Working with Adam, with him running the company.
And to think that I get the opportunity of carrying on my grandfather's legacy 75 years later here in Sheridan, Wyoming, I mean, it really is a dream come true.
Oh, I'm home. Thank God I'm home.
On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast.
Welcome back to On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast. Man, we're like on the tail end of show season. Just came back from SCI. Got to meet a lot of podcast listeners. That was an absolute blast. More people than I would have thought. Pay attention to this thing. It's kind of fun.
It is fun. I've got a couple of people at the shows as well say that they listen to the podcast, and our On Our Mark, the inbox that we get on our email has been a little bit more active than normal too. So we always appreciate when people email in questions and stuff or what they want to hear. So
yeah. So today, Tyler actually had this idea. It's a question we get a lot about our hunt films. I don't know if everybody knows, but pretty much all of our hunt films are done in-house. That's both from the content gathering, the filming, the shooting, and also the editing. And that's all pretty much done by this team right here. And so if you're not watching, you're just listening, we've got Tyler Grethen, our marketing manager, DJ Jazzy Dean, a.k.a. Jazzy.
Yes, sir.
He's our social media guru. And then we've got the Koby Owens.
I'm that important, huh?
Yeah, I think you are.
that was a good intro.
Koby's our newest member of the team. How, 4 months?
4 months.
4 months. And content producer. So he makes everything look really good. And Mac was on our podcast before, was our previous content producer. He went to some greener pastures, and Koby joined, like I said, about 4 months ago, and we're thrilled to have him on the team. Brings a lot of things that different to what Mac had, and it's pretty cool. It's cool to see your photo eye.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride of 4 months. Everyone asks me like, "How do you like Sheridan?" I'm like, "Well, I haven't been around much. It keeps me real busy. We've been going all over the place, gathering lots of stuff."
How many hunts were you on?
Let's see, we did. Tyler and I went on a hunt, deer hunt right away.
First week, it was like here 2 days, and we're like, let's drive 8 hours and get me deer hunting.
Adam and Brenda sheep hunt, Kodiak. Montana duck hunt.
Lots of ducks.
Montana duck hunt. Arkansas, Wyoming, Colorado, and I think one more. So I think I'm like 9 hunts deep. Oh,
Yeah.
and Reno. So it might be 10.
Yep,
Oh,
10
yeah.
hunts.
I think I'm 4 months in, 10 hunts deep.
Yeah, it feels like you've been here longer just because of how many hunts and how many days we've already spent, like not in the
field.
in the field,
Yeah.
not in the office.
So on top of that, there's what we'll just call studio work too, where you're doing stills of all of our white background, product photography, all that's done too. So
Yeah, every rifle we come out with needs a specific set of imagery for our landing pages, and very thankfully, like DJ can take care of a good part of that too if I'm not around, because he's got the skill set to do that. So, but yeah, doing those, and then a little bit of kind of studio video work that we just did that was quite interesting, pretty fun.
It was a process.
Excited.
Yeah, it was fun. It looked
that's
really
like
cool.
some stuff that hasn't really been done before. Like it's fun. It's fun pushing the edge. So anyway, the reason that we wanted to do this podcast, it was Tyler's ideas. We get this question all the time. Like, how do you guys do these hunts? How do you get this content? I like to think it's pretty good. Sometimes even people say, how do you get this good content? Yeah. It's fun. So Tyler was like, we should just talk about how we do it. I'm not by trade a camera guy, but probably just out of dumb luck. Like I love it. I love content, and I've kind of gotten into it. I got into graphic design because I was really frustrated with a graphic designer. Like, I don't know, a lot of years ago, 15 years ago, I was trying to get a box designed. I was a product manager for a company, and they were like not getting it. I'm like, this is not hard, guys. So I downloaded a free version of CorelDRAW and just did the box like at home. And then the next day I was like, it's done.
Cool.
And it kind of like started from there. Like, oh, maybe he can do something. I'm like, well, we weren't getting the photography we needed, so I just did that too.
How many years ago was that? So that's kind of interesting. We'll go around and talk about how everyone kind of got started with it. But so you were started with graphic design. When
Well,
did it go
I
from like photos, and then when do you know how?
When I
long?
started doing it at work was around. It started with graphic design, but I've been riding motorcycles since I was 9, and I've had a video camera. I started on 8mm, like analog, and I was like, I'll date myself. I'm 42, but that was kind of like digital 8 was beginning to replace 8mm. And I had this old Sony computer, and I had like the original version of Adobe Premiere that came on the computer that I got from Circuit City, which is out of business. It was like a Best Buy.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned to edit. And I just put like goofy videos of me shooting my brother with a paintball gun, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
But it's evolved over time. And then like I would say my production quality went way up as I got more into motorcycle videos and then doing hunt films and stuff. So it's definitely a process over the last 30 years.
That's pretty awesome.
That's right on.
I was gonna say, let's maybe ask DJ, where did you kind of get your start? I mean, you do social, but you edit a lot of our reels. You're doing a lot of the graphics now for any of the social graphics on like our stories and all that stuff. How did you kind of get interested in picking up a camera?
Yeah, for sure. So actually, I'm going to say a couple years back in college, me and some buddies were like, hey, it'd be super cool to like film our hunts. You know, we like going out, and let's try and share that experience with, you know, YouTube, and start an Instagram page and do all this sort of fun stuff. And so I bought like a $400 Sony Handycam and just started filming, and all of a sudden really started liking it, and you know, offering myself up to film like for my buddies' hunts and everything like that. And then I was like, it'd be really cool to take pictures too. And so then I got a Sony a7 III, a more like quote unquote professional camera, and got a lens and started taking pictures, and just, you know, eventually moved out to Wyoming from Wisconsin, and just love taking pictures of the nature and hunts and all that sort of good stuff. And just worked on editing, and I've learned a lot here in my last 6 months. Like, we're surrounded by a team of experts. Like, you know, our graphic designer's awesome, Koby's awesome, and just learning like Photoshop and Premiere Pro is just, it's awesome. So that's kind of how I got my start. But
Yeah, that's pretty rad. Koby?
Let's ask the professional now.
Yeah. Koby.
enough with these rookies.
Hey, I'll share my story, and it's going to be really funny.
I can't wait for your story. But yeah, so, you know, I kind of always was drawn to like those little disposable cameras as kids, but when the real start happened is 2015. I was in high school, just messing around with one of my mom's cameras up at our hunting cabin. Not during hunting season, just during the summer, taking just trying to take pictures of the night sky. And I like looked to the north. I'm like, oh man, northern lights are out. I'll try and take a picture of them. And I took this pretty sweet picture. And from that moment, I was just hooked. I actually learned how to take pictures of the night sky and in the dark before I learned to during the day. So that really gave me a jump on like manually exposing photos and understanding the settings behind a camera. And from there, it was just like wanting to share the beauty of Montana, where I'm originally from, share the beauty of that state with people who weren't maybe fortunate enough to get out. And that kept evolving. When I went to college, I started taking the camera along on hunts with buddies. So one photo actually changed the course of my life. Stephen Drake has this image. Some of you have probably seen it before. It's a shed laying on the ground with a bull with both antlers in the background. And I saw that, and it was just like, wow, I can combine hunting and photography into one, two things I love. And so it just evolved from there, and I've always looked up to him, and it's been pretty cool over these last couple years. Kind of, he's a mentor, but also a little bit of a friend now, be able to call him that, and that's pretty cool to that come full circle. But the video side of stuff is actually, it's kind of interesting. I'm not even 2 years deep into my video career per se. I've always been a photographer and just love capturing people doing what they love, especially in the outdoors, is what I say. And the video side came upon when I realized that there's a lot of value in it, and to get to a position like I am in today, that's what it was going to take, is being able to do both of them. And so the technical side has been a lot harder to get into, just like understanding why this setting is this and why that setting's that. But like the capturing of the actual like vision and what I see is the easy part, because that came with so many years of taking photos. I do.
Yeah.
I say that's truly my biggest asset. I just do have a very good natural eye for photographs and capturing moments. So
I tell you what, Koby makes my job 10 times easier. Like, there's not a bad picture that he takes that I can't post and be confident.
I can use that.
Yeah,
That's good.
it's pretty awesome.
appreciate that, dude.
So Tyler, what's
what's
your
your story?
Yeah,
what's your story?
so mine kind of maybe shaped me being more of like the marketing guy. But I remember, so when I was growing up, pre high school, was in the time when like Outdoor Channel was big, and it was like whitetails, like big bucks, archery hunting, and all that thing. I can remember one of my buddies when we were younger. We had a broken camera that didn't actually work. And I remember I used to pretend to film him shooting a 3D archery target. And that's when I kind of like, man, I was like, I like to do this whole storytelling thing. We do the whole whisper back and forth. He'd draw back and maybe like 30 yards, and then we'd shoot an archery target.
For a 3D target.
For a 3D target.
Just a block target.
Yeah, and we weren't actually filming. It was just a it was just a camera that didn't work. So I kind of like, that was like my earliest like memory of like wanting to tell stories and like
That's
do the whole
awesome.
marketing thing. And then, you know, through high school, that was when like social media actually started like blowing up for me. So just being able to like tell like a story is where I kind of maybe my roots. I like to take a few photos. I'd like to get a little more proficient on like the technical stuff. So that's kind of also why this idea came up. Is like, man, I'm kind of interested in like making those skills better for myself. But from like the storytelling side, I mean, these guys probably get sick of me of like sending like really cool videos or ideas, or like if we could do this with this product. So that's kind of maybe where the spark for me came on the content side.
You've got the passion for it, for sure.
Oh yeah,
Which is great.
yeah.
Which also is like, it doesn't necessarily make my job easier, but does at times. Like being able to have the conversations that we have, like it might make my job harder sometimes because you want such good stuff, which I don't blame you. But your mind and how
We
it
gotta
works.
push for it.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. But your mind and how it works takes those ideas that I have, and then you see something different within them that we can bring to something else. Like
There's a couple like things that like there's gonna be a few launch videos coming out that he showed me all this like what if this, and then like he made it happen. I was like, yes, that's amazing. You were so good at your job. So no, it's fun to be able to work with like a crew who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I love these intros. I think Weatherby's unique among most firearms companies. Most companies use a third-party marketing agency who often then uses third-party content guys. So is that be fourth party?
Yeah.
But we do everything in-house, so we can go have a meeting. We'll have a product meeting. You're often in those, and then you'll have an idea, and then it's like, yo, let's beat this up real quick, and we talk through it, and we make it happen. And I just think it makes us really nimble, and it's a big differentiator. So if our competitors are listening to the podcast, I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's something about like producing like the films and the content in general. It sometimes just seems like, oh, we're out doing fun things, but there really is a backstory. Like if you back up to it, there's a reason why we're doing that trip. Every hunt story writes itself, but there's this overarching like subtle story that you can push that product into with it still being authentic, right? We were going to go do that anyways, but if you structure the content or the hunt in a certain way, it just naturally brings out that product without it being super pushy, right? We all want to see good hunt films.
It's the product and it's the people. One of the things that is unique to Weatherby is we've got Adam Weatherby, and he's in the films most of the time. Some of us are occasionally. But you get like a peek into the personality. And when you use an agency, you're often using somebody that's not really a company employee to be the face of the company or to be a brand mascot, whatever you want to call it. I think it's hard to do it the way we're doing because not everything we put out is as good as we think it is.
that's probably true.
Like
And-
sometimes there's like comments like, "Why'd y'all do that?" And we're like, "Well, we knew why we did it, but maybe it didn't go over like we wanted it to go over."
Yeah.
So you got to have broad shoulders because not everybody's going to like everything we do.
Yeah, and we really do. Even with our ambassador program, we typically don't have just like ambassadors. We have partnerships. Like
We
if
do.
you see a lot
Yeah.
of our hunt films, it's going to be with a lot of partners. But we want to go on hunts. We only partner with people that we would go share the field with, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's also a little unique thing that we bring through our content really well. That I enjoy you guys producing. So
Well, what you were gonna like drive this next part of like how we do what we do. So instead of us just like talking about it, why don't you try to get it out of us?
yeah, so we do a lot of the DIY hunts, which then for you guys provides like a challenge of like, okay, we're doing all these hunts on the logistics side, but then you have to pack for, let's just, for an example, use like a 7-day backpack trip. There's a lot of logistics that just goes into the hunting side. So I'd love to get like Luke and Koby. DJ, you've done a few backpack like filming trips too. Maybe there's just like, give us just like a little like mindset on like how you approach one, packing, like how many different camera bodies are you potentially taking? What's your pack going to weigh? Do you guys like cognizantly be like, oh, I've got to train now because I know I have a backpack camera trip that I know that I have to run around all the time when you're hiking. You run around to get the shot, right? So I don't know, Koby, maybe you stab this one.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
start. Maybe we'll fill in, but I'm gonna just start with because everybody here has it. Mac had it, and I've done hunts where people don't have it, and it makes a difference. The number one piece of gear that you can bring is a good attitude.
That's actually I think,
PHA, good
yeah,
old PHA.
yeah, positive hunting attitude. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, if you don't bring that, nothing else really matters that much. Because as a content person on that trip, your job is to document it, but not really impact it.
Yeah, that's a fair. I've been pretty blessed between this job and my last job to be with some really good camera guys, but I have heard nightmares of like, on day 2, this guy just started complaining really bad, and it's like,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be there to help, but be kind of a fly on the wall, and
Yeah, if at the end it was like, man, that trip was awesome, except that camera guy sucked, like then you did it wrong.
Okay,
So-
kind of two things to spitball off of that before I get started on the 7-day hunt is, yeah, totally agree. I've heard horror stories of different camera guys that unfortunately helped give us a bad name. And I've also been in the other position where I've been as much of a unpaid guide per se, but I've essentially guided some hunts before while filming them.
Unofficially
and documenting them.
guided,
Yeah, and that makes my job 10 times harder to actually capture what you need to capture
While
and
you're trying to run a hunt.
worried about what's going down to make the hunt come out on
very
top.
hard.
So it's just kind of two sides of that, whereas like, yeah, I'd rather just be here. They're doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. I'm going to ask them to do a couple things within that. But yeah, so 7-day backpack hunt. I had a couple different backpack hunts this year. One was 8 and one was 12 days, and not much changes other than amount of food I bring, and then just depending on time of year. And even time of year, only thing that really happens is a couple more layers make it into the pack. So I'm going to start with my food. That's what I always start with. It's your heaviest item at the end of the day, especially me. I eat a lot of calories on the mountain.
You share snacks really well too. Like anytime I'm like kind of hungry, all of a sudden Kobe's like, "Hey, do you want to try this new snack that I have?" So that's a cameraman tip: bring good snacks.
That's right.
Never go snackless.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get over 3,000 calories a day, somewhere between 32 and 34. Typically, I will pack like 2 Peak Refills or Wild Society freeze-dry meals. Those are kind of 2 of my favorite brands. And then Alpenfields, which are granola in the morning. And then snacks off top of that. So I was 25 pounds of food on that 8-day hunt.
It's a lot of food.
It's a lot of food.
That is usually it's
But-
about a pound and a half.
But you need a lot of food.
Yeah.
Because
You're burning a lot of calories.
I think it's a truth that maybe not everybody wants to admit, but the camera guy's doing the most work. Just going to say that out loud.
Yeah.
Maybe not after
won't
the kill
argue.
is done because you don't always have to pack out, but often we're packing out too.
Well,
Yeah.
I've definitely seen cameraman and Kobe in particular, where I'll just be hiking and all of a sudden I hear, shoo, 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 and it's Kobe running around me to get in front of me to get a shot, which is
Yeah.
always funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of up and down.
Yeah, there
And
is.
then you'll hold back sometimes to like get a cool shot of them further away,
And then you have to
gotta
catch up.
I can picture the Yukon shot that you're talking about right now.
Yeah, I got like
The horses are way back.
Yeah, I got way off, and I was like, well, I wanted that shot.
Yeah, worth it. It was a great transition piece in that film. So then sleep system. I've been dialing in my sleep system for years. I have a great one. It's not too heavy, and it works for me. I run a Thermarest Neo Air X Lite, Stone Glacier Chilkout bag, and currently, one thing I don't sacrifice is on the comfort side is a tent. I've ran some smaller tents before, and I like a little bit more space when it comes down to it. So Seek Outside Sunlight has been the one of choice. So super dialed sleep setup. On top of that, layering system from what I wear up there and have on the mountain, it's 99% Stone Glacier. Big fan of the Havlod lights and heavies. The lights early season, the heaviers in later season. And then typically I'll have a Merino on, and then their layering system. So on top of that, let's see, go a good tripod. Always have to have a solid tripod.
Must.
That's a must.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I have, of course, all the little like first aid kit, survival gear. Like I'm packing just like I'm going on a hunt by myself without anyone there.
Yeah. So up until this point right here, this is exactly how you would pack if you were, rifle hunting or archery elk hunting or doing something like that.
Exactly. If I'm going on my own 7-day hunt, it's nothing changes, except I'm gonna add an extra camera because I'll still take on personal hunts. I will take one body. When I'm on a hunt filming for Weatherby, I'm gonna take two bodies and multiple lenses depending. So we're on a rifle hunt, obviously. Archery is different. I can actually like take less lenses on archery hunts when I was filming those previously because you don't need as much zoom typically.
Yeah. 100 yards is like a 1,000-yard shot.
Yeah, yeah. So I run Sony cameras. What I'm gonna bring with me is 24-70. It's my favorite lens. I actually ran without it this year and was running a 35 millimeter prime and then a 24-270.
240.
240. 24-240. Mm-hmm. And then on the other body, I'd probably be running at either 85 or the 70-200 now. Yeah. And then the cool thing that we have here is we have a big old 95 millimeter Swaro. It's cool till you have to carry that thing.
How much do you think that weighs?
9 pounds.
Yeah, it is. It's about. I've weighed it before.
It's right about 9 pounds because my Sigma lens is 8 pounds and it's just heavier than it.
Yeah, it's heavy, but it has all the zoom.
It
all
does.
the zoom.
We used to use a little Lumix FZ80 that has like 100x optical zoom and this little bitty point and shoot body, and it was pretty good. When you're zoomed in, it's optical all the way, so it's like pretty good quality, but it just really wasn't great quality. Like it says it's shooting 4K, but it's not great 4K quality. So we were like, man, we got a lot of longer range hunts, not because we want to shoot and kill long range, but because where we're hunting, getting ready for the mule deer tour, Western Wyoming.
I was gonna say, if you want to see what the lens can do, that first episode of the mule deer tour, Adam and Brenda's mule deer they shoot are like prime examples of when you guys like utilized, and it looks great because those
does look cool.
Those two bucks were at 550 some yards, and the other one was at 800.
And you can see the bullet in the air. It's wild. Anyway,
so cool.
I was looking for what the best setup for this, like getting a kill shot would be, and I looked at 500 millimeter zoom lenses for cameras, or 100 to 500, and those are good, but to really like have the animal full frame, filling up the screen, this is like the number one option. It just cost 9 pounds.
Yeah. So there's an adapter that goes onto my camera my Sony body that will hook right up to the eyepiece of the
It's called
Swaro.
the TLS APO from Swarovski.
Yeah, so it's pretty slick. And then mics, obviously, you got to have good audio, in my opinion. And then I know a lot of people's opinion. Good audio will make or break a film, and it is one of the big learning points for me right
100%.
now. It's always evolving with it and trying to figure out how to get better audio, especially in the wind. Because I mean, Kodiak.
Yeah.
Here,
That's why they
like,
give an
it's just a
Academy
wind.
Award for sound editing. It's a
Dude.
real thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
I think that was like one of Brian Call's biggest tips is figuring out your audio when
Yeah.
it comes to editing. Is just like making sure you're getting good audio before, because that, like you were
'Cause
saying,
you
it's like
can't-
your eyes can kind of put together the picture if it's a little unsteady, but if it doesn't sound right, you like it just throws something off in
Throws
your head.
everything off.
And I've been at Full Draw Film Tour last year, I believe, and there was a film in there that was visually really good, but the audio was truly atrocious, and I was cringing.
It's
I
distracting.
felt bad
Yeah.
for the people, and I checked out. I did, and I, as someone who was like, this is visually pleasing. So for mics, oh man, I don't even know the name of these little things, but they're a little Sony hot shoe mic. They're like $350. I run those. I run just Rode
Video Mic Pro.
Video Mic Pro, NTG Pro, and then right now looking into some new options for this year that we might go into later. But
So after packing all of that, let's say you have to take everything, bells and whistles, the spotter. What are you thinking you're like weighing at
yeah,
this point?
so another little thing or two is hydration side of things.
Water's heavy.
Water's heavy.
Yeah.
I have a thing. I don't like bladder bags because I've had them fail on me. But if I don't have a bladder hose to drink, I'm not the best at hydrating. So I run these hard side hydration setups and just big Nalgene balls with hose coming out of them. And then I'll have like a little FHF chest rig on with all my knickknacks like ND filters, extra battery, Allen wrenches, microfibers, all the little tools. So after everything's packed there, figuring over 80. I ran an 85 and an 87 this year. One was a 12-day, but we didn't have every bag of food. And then the Brenda's sheep hunt was a potentially 10-day, and I was right at 80, 87 there. So
Yep.
yeah,
That's a real thing.
Stone
on your-
Glacier pack.
On your
Yeah.
chest rig, are you running just camera stuff or do you bring binos typically? I know. I think
that's
on
a
one.
tough one.
I know. I was gonna say. I
It's
know. We've
50-50.
It depends. For me, it depends on the hunt, like what it is.
Yes.
If it's a hunt where it's definitely going to be glassing intensive, like sheep hunting, I'm going to bring binos.
Yeah, because like on Kodiak, I don't think you brought binos because there's a bunch of us with binos.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess it really depends
Kodiak
on
was no binos because I'm like, okay, like A, I want to capture the most amount of content I can. B, I'll be in groups of 3 people plus myself. On Adam and Brenda's sheep hunt, I did not bring binos, but I had the Swaro spotter, so I was using the Swaro. So that's kind of the other piece of that is if I have that Swaro on me, I'm gonna have that and probably utilize it. But there was definitely like one hunt this year that I didn't bring binos. I was like, I should have. It's my deer film, archery deer film that's about to release.
Because I could see where binos would be really helpful when it's like, the stereotypical, it's right there, and you're like, where? And then you have to like get your binos.
It's hard. It's a real
Because like
thing.
when you have that
Yeah.
big spotter, it probably isn't the easiest thing to get lined up on an animal right away because of how much zoom you already have.
Inside of 300 yards, it's almost impossible. Like you're zoomed in so tight, and you're like, golly, I'm looking here, I'm looking there. It should be right here, and you're like, oh man, I was 75 yards off. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You and Kobe did that this weekend.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
pretty funny. That's why I'm like advocating for rangefinder binos now, just because like when you're with your partner, like you both having them. I was like, it's right there, Kobe, and he's like, right where? I was like, that shaded hillside, and he's like looking like way too close, and then this buck's at like 500 yards, like looking right at us, but it's hard to communicate sometimes.
Yeah.
On that, so.
Especially when you're in like the sage and flat and prairie, you're
Yeah.
like, it all looks the same. So
And for you guys, that's important to like. You have to have the eye to get right on because things happen fast, right?
yeah, like
Often they do, and if you're not on, then you screw it up. It's not good.
Yeah.
I was pretty proud of myself on Kodiak.
Kodiak,
2
you
for
got
2,
on,
and
you got on
I
my
had
butt
like
fast.
I would say under 15 seconds to get my pack off, camera stabilized and set up
Yeah.
on deer.
I was gonna say I think that kill shot went. It was between me and Joe, I'm like, Joe, are you gonna shoot this thing?
Uh-huh.
Pretty much, and Joe's like, no, you can shoot it. I was like, are you gonna shoot it? And then he's like, not on his gun, and I'm like, on my gun. I'm like, are you sure?
I'm gonna kill this.
And he's like, shoot it. And then I don't even know if I checked with you on accident, but
No.
you got it because it was like 2 seconds after he said kill it, and I just
Yeah.
killed it.
Yeah.
One thing I did miss on the packing is how I carry my cameras, which to me, when I got this tool 5 years ago, this is the biggest thing that helped my photography game. Cotton carrier strap shots. They're these little straps that Velcro on to my backpack, and you have your camera out and ready at all times.
Yeah.
That is like best photography tool ever made. I think it's as important as the dang camera, in my opinion.
I use the Peak Designs.
Yeah.
That's got, you can clip it almost anywhere. You can put it on your belt. You can put it on your
Yeah.
strap, but you've got to have it out and ready, so you don't know when something cool is going to happen.
You can't take a very good picture when it's in your backpack.
You cannot.
No.
Yeah.
You cannot. I'm going to jump in too. So some of the things I do different, or let's just say that I sacrifice if it's a hunt versus like trying to content capture. I take less socks and underwear for space. It's gross, but it is what it is.
Hey, you're not out there to win any smelling awards,
No.
so I'm good with that.
No, we're not archery hunting. So, and then I try to. You end up like, I space out more than I weigh out. Like I can carry a lot of weight. I don't love doing it, but I can do it.
Space out, yeah.
But I end up running out of space more than I do weight. So you just got to be really careful with what you bring. And like we were talking about binos, a pair of binos is about the same weight as a lens. So it's like
One of the first things to go for me.
yeah, it's
not
one of the
getting
first
packed.
things that can go. We've got a couple really light tripods that we've been playing with. More on that later. But if you can save a pound on your tripod, that matters, and still be stable, because there's a balance there. You want a good solid tripod that's not going to be like if you run a camera, but like if you touch the screen and then it takes 4 seconds for it to stabilize again, that's not good.
Or the worst is when you're on and it's the wind just vibrates your tripod. So you have to have good enough legs that the wind doesn't vibrate it.
For sure. So the tripod to me is like an area where there's like a risk reward game. You can go too light. You can also go too heavy. I prefer a lightweight fluid head. Some people run a ball head that you really can't adjust with, but on that Swaro spotter, you've got to have a fluid head. It's like a must.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else would be different from a normal hunt, but I run a Canon body. I'm different. I think most of the hunting industry probably runs Sony, but I'm old and I guess I can't change as easily anymore. And when I was doing the research for this Swaro, the Canon R5 like really jumped out as like one of the better 4K 120 video capturing cameras, and so I got one of those and a little suite of lenses with an R6 as a second body. So that's been a lot of fun to play with. But other than that, the lenses themselves are very similar to what the professionals using.
DJ, you got any comments on like how you pack? Is there anything as like Koby and Luke were going through their list, you're like, I don't do that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, my setup's very different from these two. They have way more experience in the backcountry than I do. I've really only been on one like 7-day hunt a couple of years ago, and I just brought my one camera body, a GoPro, and that was it. One lens with that camera body, and that was it. But most of my experience is Wisconsin whitetail hunting, like very different style of hunting. You don't pack anything in like other than your tree stand and whatever. But yeah, no, these guys nailed it. So
Yeah, I would love to do like a part 2 with Adam DeMarchi on packing for waterfowl.
Waterfowl's
hunting.
a whole different animal. Because then weight doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's so hard to film.
So we won't even
Birds
get
in
into
flight's
that.
a whole nother animal.
Yeah.
I was going to bring up one more thing, that battery maintenance and planning for power is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a tricky thing. So people have different takes.
What batteries a day? What do you got?
Well, if you're running, it depends on the hunt, but you never want to be out, so I probably go over. So I usually will have 8 total batteries, and then is that low or high?
Low.
Yeah. So I usually bring 8 batteries, and then my recharge system is I have a solar panel that's like a 30 or 40 watt solar panel that I'll leave on my pack if we're moving around, or if we set up a spike camp, I'll leave at the tent, and then it's charging a power bank or power banks. And then when I get back to the tent at night, I recharge those power banks.
Is your like solar pretty collapsible? Do you have a good brand? I've been kind of looking into that a little bit. Do you know what it is?
I have an actual Goal Zero one. It works really well, and it folds like a magazine size, so it's like pretty slim, and I can just put it in my pack, and it has multiple lash points, so I can actually just unfold it if it's really sunny and we're like hiking in or hiking around. I can carabiner it to my pack and then be charging while we're walking around too. Cool. But I charge a power brick and then use that brick to charge the batteries. It's typically my go-to.
Okay, but how many batteries a day do you think you're using? Are you running through like 3.5 batteries a day? Are you using 4 batteries a day?
I usually, one camera is probably going through 2 to 3, and then one's usually an auxiliary camera, and that's only going to go through 1 battery.
I'm right about there with you.
Yeah.
It's like I plan for 2 through 1, and then the other one, honestly, I think these Sony batteries are pretty proficient actually in the A7 IVs, and just the A7 IV itself with battery usage. But yeah, I'd plan with minimum 3, maximum 4.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing a couple more batteries along, just like actual camera batteries, typically 10 to 12. But I have little Dark Energy Poseidon Pros that I have that I will supplement the camera throughout the day, so maybe I don't go through as many batteries. That's one of my things is like, okay, once the batteries are dead, they almost take more to get fully charged up, I feel like. So if I can maintain my like go through a battery and then like we have some downtime and we're sitting glassing or even hiking, I'll just plug my camera into that Poseidon Pro bank and supplement it throughout the day. And then I need to get dialed on the solar panel side of things. I have one that they just released that's like a rollable solar one, but I got a prototype that wasn't the final one, and it didn't work as well as I wanted it to, and then hunting season was over, so I haven't had time to test the new one. But that is something that I'm like looking to dial in is solar options, so maybe I bring 3 less batteries, and I still have 2 battery banks or 3 battery banks and can supplement more. So it's like
I just find that when I don't care about my phone so much when I'm just me, like it's not that big a deal. My inReach will go the distance. Usually I've got the little inReach messenger. It'll last like a month. Like battery life on it's awesome.
Like a little mini, right?
It's like a mini, but it doesn't really have a screen. It's
even
really better than battery life better. It has some sacrifice.
Is it inReach or Zillia or
no? It's an inReach Messenger is what it's called.
Oh, the Messenger. See, I have the big like 100-hour battery life one. I have the fat one.
Yeah, it goes forever. It's awesome. But I end up like wanting to use my phone because inevitably like you want to see your like cool pics from that day, and then I'll do like some quick edits on my phone.
Really?
Often, yeah. So I'll dump pictures from the camera onto my phone usually at night because I'm like, oh, check these out. People like to see that.
Yeah, just like gives a little spark to the hunt. I do like seeing hunt photos during the hunt. You're like, oh, we're still crushing it even if we haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah,
I've never done that on a backpack hunt like I did it in Kodiak on the laptop, but I have a very like system of like
when you get back.
Yeah.
Well, I'm less good at that, so.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, you have a couple more jobs in your.
Well, it's all right. I just give them to you. It's great. My system.
And then I give them to DJ.
My system is
I sort 'em out.
fantastic. Yeah, this is a great system, actually. No, so power management in the backcountry is tricky, and I mean that's multiple pounds of gear right there, because.
And
Actually,
SD
here's
cards too.
Yeah, card management is tricky. the batteries that I actually use for the camera, I have like 4 genuine Canon camera batteries, and I have some aftermarket batteries that you can recharge directly, plug into the battery, a little USB-C cable. So you don't need an extra external charging thing, and those batteries are pretty great.
Sony, if you're listening to this, please do that.
Yeah, I bet Sony's listening to this one.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Count on it.
Sony Alpha.
Yeah.
No, that's slick. You were telling me about that in your office the other day. I'm like, dang, that's the only thing I'm jealous about on the Canons.
It's pretty handy. I'm sure they make one for Sony, but
It's
yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
It might not be Sony brand though. Who knows?
Yeah, and I've used some non-Sony branded batteries, and I don't notice a huge difference if I'm just shooting photos in the summer. But if I'm shooting in colder weather or video in colder weather, they're half as good.
And it usually is cold.
Usually, very typically, yep.
Yeah, rifle season's usually chilly. So yeah, I think power management. Yeah, you're just
Card management is like, let's get into that a little bit. So actually, just a couple weeks ago, I was talking with one of my mentors, and I've had a very good system so far, but I just came up with an even better one. So I'm excited to implement this one. But I dual shoot SD cards 2 at a time at all times, just in case something goes corrupt, something happens to one. It's just a fail safe. Yeah, you have to buy twice as many SD cards, but I mean, it's worth it in my opinion.
Especially if it's for work.
Especially if it's for work. Or I mean, even when I was freelancing, it's like that's.
I mean, cards are expensive, but they're not that expensive.
Yeah,
and if
they've come down in the last 2 years.
If you're on a hunt, no matter personal or otherwise, like you got way more money tied up in fuel probably than you do
in the cards.
Yeah. So
can't reuse fuel either. You can reuse cards.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. But how I've been doing it previously is just 2 cards, either 128s or 64s in the camera. Take them out after a day or 2. I like to rotate them. If I'm on an 8-day hunt, I'll probably go through 4 sets of cards unless I over-record one day, because I want those to get pulled out every day in case I drop my camera in a river or drop it down the mountain, and I have at least those 2 days or those 4 days banked up. I might lose footage from one day. It's never happened, but it's a fail-safe there. But like I said, use a lot of cards. So talk with my mentor. He's like, hey, I put in card slot 2, I just put a 512 gigabyte card and run it through the whole project, and then would switch out my top one every day or every other day.
That's
so
a great way to do it.
I'm gonna start doing. That's why I had those big, expensive SD cards in the cart. Yeah. But I think that's gonna be overall more proficient with using less cards, and then that one just stays in there. Yeah. So I'm excited to implement that. Something new. Always evolving, right?
Yeah.
We're always evolving, trying to find better processes on how to do this. So
I think that might segue into like a good. What are some camera stuff? We've talked about like some new stuff, and we talked about maybe getting a little nerdy here. Is there any new cameras that you and Luke or you guys are excited about adding to our stable of Weatherby cameras?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Very much so. Yeah. So I've been shooting on the Sony A7 IVs for the last 2 years of my life. And I am very excited to kind of dive down a different rabbit hole and run the A7S III. It is a more dedicated video camera. Something I've never had. The A7 IVs are just good hybrid cameras. They're not necessarily, they're great at both, but they're not made specifically as photo or specifically as video, just to be good at both. So the S is more video orientated, shoots great 4K. You have 4K 120, I think, with audio, and
that's pretty nice.
It's because I've been shooting 1080 4K with audio just because I don't want to sacrifice the audio side. And to me, you can tell, but at the end of the day, capturing it is more important than it being a little bit better quality. That's how my brain works. And then the A7R4, which is ours for resolution, 61 megapixel sensor. So specifically for photos, that thing is going to create some amazing imagery because it's basically doubling the A7 IVs. And has
So essentially, you went from having one camera that could kind of do okay at both, but now we're going to add potentially 2 cameras that are really good at each, since you're always running 2 cameras.
Yep. And then take one of those Sony A7 IVs and have it as our middle ground camera floater for you to take, or Kyle to take, or DJ to video the podcast with here if the S3 is not around, and stuff like that. Kind of be our floater and just utility camera because it's just solid. It's
So
there.
if you were to recommend to someone who's just getting into it, who maybe has had like a lower level camera, that would be a good step up for someone who's starting to get into like filming their own stuff and just having fun kind of thing.
Yes. I even think that, yes, the Sony A7 III is a phenomenal camera. That's what DJ has. Mm-hmm. But I ran that camera for years, and the issues that camera had, issues as in things I didn't like or things that needed to be fixed, was done with the A7 IV, which seemed to have overheated over there, I think.
Let's talk about the Canons for a
Yeah,
moment.
these Sonys are great if you're still listening, Sony.
But no, the A7 IV, I think that it is the ticket if you're looking for Sony. I mean, you can get it for $2,000 used. And I'm an advocate for buying gear used. Adorama, MPB, B&H. Go on there, buy stuff used. Bodies and lenses. Like, you will save a couple $100, and me and my crew of people, of photographers, have never had an issue with buying anything used.
Dude, they
ever.
do a good job of vetting those particular
Yes.
sites of like
Yes.
making sure that those used stuff are good.
I think
it
from
all
those
comes
sites
in.
that he listed,
Those
yes.
specific
eBay,
ones.
not so much.
No, eBay's a different story. Yeah, but those sites, like, seriously, buy used. It's saved me a lot of money because if you think about it, if you're buying 2 bodies and you save $1,500 to $1,000 or $2,000 between both of those, that gives you a whole nother lens or a whole nother body, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one of my approaches.
There's this might transition less from your question, but more into like people are going to want to get into this. Mm-hmm. What you're talking about is probably more than a lot of people want to bite off. Multiple bodies, multiple lenses.
Yeah.
That's you get to $10,000+ real fast when you start playing that game. If you're like, I just want to get into filming hunts, skip this is my opinion, might not be everybody agree with, but I say skip the whole DSLR thing. Like get a $1,000 to $2,000. There's some pretty sweet video only cameras from Sony and Canon that are $1,500 that have a really good zoom range and really good light sensors that can do some phenomenal things if all you care about is filming hunts. If you want to do both stills and video, then that's where you start getting into a DSLR. And beyond just a DSLR, I think mirrorless is the way to go anymore. When you're starting to do these double duty, like video, photo cameras, then you got to get a mirrorless camera. It's the only way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I can't really speak on the more camcorder side of stuff because it's not something I've used one like once before.
There's some phenomenal ones.
I'm sure there are. It's just not something I've, like I said, newer into the whole video thing.
So you'd go more of like that style than doing like DSLR and then like a phone scope supplemental or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, a phone scope on a whatever spotter you have, it's going to do pretty well for a kill shot. If you're like, we're trying to get like really top level.
Oh yeah,
quality,
yeah,
we
for
do
sure.
pretty good stuff, and even some of the just old like modern handycam style video cameras, they've got some pretty good optical zoom range, and their lenses are not bad. If you're going to Africa and you're like, I just don't know what it's going to be, you're going to film everything probably inside of 300 yards. Having a power zoom button is pretty sweet.
Smooth.
So
smooth. It's actually good stabilization in those too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something I've never really thought about suggesting to people. I mean, a lot of people are asking me about photo and video stuff, but yeah, if you're like, I just want a video and make a film, just video. Yeah, that's a solid option.
Well, and that's how I got into it, was buying a Sony Handycam, literally $600, and I was in college bartending, not making much money, and then it just took off from there. But those things are nice.
And that's how
for sure, and super easy to use.
That's
too.
how a lot of like the hunting public guys do or started. I'm
Yeah.
sure they've progressed a little bit, but working with those guys, they started with just handy cam stuff.
Oh yeah, and then you learn and watch YouTube videos and learn what you like and what you want to do, and yeah, it's the way to go.
Yeah.
YouTube University, it's your best friend
Well,
when you're getting into this
and
stuff.
that's what I was about to say. And so my son's 15. Him and a couple of friends are like getting into photography and videography, and they're like, they started off with, we want to go to school for this. I'm like, you could, or we could just get YouTube Premium,
Yeah.
where we skip the ads, and there's almost nothing you couldn't learn about any photo or video question that's not covered 700 different ways on YouTube.
It's a little cheaper monthly payment than school.
Yeah. Koby, I'll see what you think about this, but I think the capturing part is probably there's it's a continuum, right? You can capture anything, but capturing it well, let's just say well enough, is probably the easy part. The hard part is what are you going to do with it? Editing then becomes tricky, and I think photo editing is easier than video editing by a long shot.
Not even close. It's
So
I'm green.
For
hands
every
down.
that's a rough rule of thumb, but for every minute of a finished film, there's probably an hour of editing.
Maybe
Yeah.
more.
That's interesting.
But so if you think
Yeah.
about it, a 30-minute hunt film, that might be 30 hours of editing.
That sounds about right.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably
yeah.
more than that. Kobe's
Even
over
on the
there
low
like,
end,
man,
yeah.
I was doing a sheep film just the other day.
Well, that was exacerbated because he was
straight.
he was trying to use my crappy content and make it look good, and he was like, man, he didn't even know the whole timeline of how it went down. So
There might be like 100 hours into that film. And it's like, it's good, but it's nothing spectacular. I mean, it's really solid. I'm proud of it, but I also look at it and have watched it so many times. I'm like, it could be better, you know? I'm never going to visually be pleased with films that I make,
Yeah,
I don't
but
think, because it's just how my mind
if
works.
you're a kid that wants to get into it, or if you're an adult that is just starting to get into it, or if you're an adult and your kids want to get into it, I think the key is just to do it. Mm-hmm. If you're comfortable with your kids starting a YouTube channel, start a YouTube channel. Have them make a video about whatever it is they're passionate about. If it's horses, if it's Legos, like find a thing that they're interested in, have them make videos, put them in front of a camera. Like, talking in front of a camera is hard. And if you're an 18-year-old kid, or Kobe, how old are you? I know you're not 18, but
25.
If you're 25, you're comfortable in front of a camera, you've got editing ability, and you've got a good attitude, you're going to get a job somewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to bounce right off that in a couple different directions. Is one of the things that really helped me get to where I was at was, okay, come up with a plan. Okay, I'm going to go out to this mountain lake. I'm going to backpack in. I'm going to shoot the Milky Way, and I'm going to shoot the sunset here. That's my photo plan. I'm going to shoot that. I'm going to take those images. I'm going to get different exposures. I'm going to bring that back into Lightroom and analyze it. I'm going to break it down. Okay, what did I do good? What did I do bad?
Yeah, great point.
The focus, the stars are out of focus. Or, it was kind of crooked. I didn't frame it very well.
Or it's grainy. My ISO was too high.
Yeah, so you have to bring it back in, analyze it, and just continue that process, essentially. It's like you have to actually have some sort of plan. It could be simple, but if you actually have a plan and bring it back, break it down, analyze it, maybe send it to your buddy, maybe reach out to someone via social media and like, hey, this was kind of what I was trying to do. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah.
Getting that feedback is only going to help accelerate the process. And then, being in front of camera, that's when I saw things kind of start to take a change for me in my social media, was when I stopped caring about what others were going to think. And I was like, this is what I want to show. This is what I'm going to do. And I just started doing it.
And you're authentic.
And
be authentic.
The authenticity is key. But like, just not caring what others were going to think if they thought it was great or bad or pushed someone away in life. I was like, okay, well, that happened for a reason then. So just being confident in yourself is huge. And thinking, once you get a little bit going, like thinking that your work is good. You have to have that confidence if you're going to help elevate yourself to that next level.
There's a lot to it.
There's a lot.
And it's a continuum. Some people probably just want to make videos that they can go watch 10 years from now, or that they want to show their buddies when they get home, and that's all there is to it. Some people might want to take Koby's job one day. You never know.
Exactly. Everyone has their levels. I think there's always this one thing, and this might be kind of a good way to land this plane, is there's one thing that you said to me is like, man, to take cool photos, you got to go to cool places and do cool things.
100%.
So
Yeah.
you just got to, kind of to Koby's testament, you just got to get out there and do it. And then when you come back, just figure it out.
Yeah, I'm not the best photographer, but I've taken some really good pictures because I was in really cool places.
Yeah.
I've been told that for years. Put gas in the gas tank. Don't buy that lens. You know, that lens will help you in some sort of way, but if you're not in the places that are going to present those opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DJ, any last closing thoughts?
That was fun.
This is a good one.
We should definitely do like an episode 2 because we could dive into this.
We could go a lot
really
of
dive
ways.
into
We
this.
can get more technical, whatever. But my last thing is just do it. You know, it's like Nike up in here. You know,
just do it.
just start. You know, you can't do it wrong. Digital cards are really cheap. If you didn't like what it turned out, erase it. Big deal. Start over, and just give it a go. It's I don't know. I always like recording content, whether it's motorcycles or family or hunts, and you're going to do it wrong for a while, and you'll learn from your mistakes, and you'll be like, man, how did they make it look like that? YouTube it, figure it out.
Mistakes are your biggest friend in this whole process.
100%. They are. Hey, thanks, guys. That was fun.
Yeah, it was a good one. Till
Yeah,
next
buddy.
time.
Well, see you later.
Big gulps, huh?